All right, everyone, welcome to the Tonto's Demise Week 9 recap. All right, well, we had some interesting things happen this week. Couple matchups came down to Monday night. Couple people made their matchups way more interesting, but couldn't quite get there. Probably let's keep this one a little short and sweet. Get right to the point here. Because, in case you heard, there was an election today, and it's not looking too good, depending on your perspective, I guess. We'll see what happens, but if we have 4 more years, I'm just going to say if we have 4 more years of this stupid motherfucker, unbelievable. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but it's looking like it's going to. And if that's what happens, gross. I have no explanation other than that. No words for anybody who can't see through the bullshit. The world will be a much worse place. That's for sure. It may sound like hyperbole or paranoia, but you guys, if Trump wins, the whole world is fucked. It's gonna be bad. Anyway, I digress. Maybe you guys like that motherfucker. If so, more power to you. I will tell you you're wrong till my dying breath, but that's my opinion. Alright, we've wasted enough time. What happened? We had a couple people get hurt this week. Dak went down. I don't think Detling was using him anyway. Oh, what happened? Let's just get right into the matchups. As always, we start with the defending champion, the Wizard of Winber. This guy, right there. Going up against Hillbillies on PCP. We had, 8 4-4 teams, right? Like half the league, more than half the league was 4-4 going into this week. And I think we've got, I gotta have to go back. Let me go back and check real quick. Now we had 8 people who were 4-4, and half of you won and half of you lost, because now we've got 8 people that are either 5-4 or 4-5. Anyway, after a lot of big talk there from Hillbillies on PCP, puffing out his chest, saying you're going to go down this week. He could not get it. His actions could not live up to his words this week, as Wizard of Wimber takes down Hillbillies on PCP 185.85 to 154.3. All right, what do we got? Burrow goes for 58. Chase 11.5. Shakir 11. JSN pops off and saves my skin, getting 40 points this week, making up for Puka getting ejected in that game. Rashad White goes for 12.5. Tracy only 8. Ferguson 14. Again, in a game where the Cowboys lost Dak, so we're going to see what happens with their offense, how much that affects CeeDee Lamb, Ferguson. Not really much else to speak of there. Puka, again in the flex, got ejected. He only goes for 2 points. Fairbairn goes for about 7. And the Baltimore Ravens defense, Yahoo says 13. Looks like, I think, a 9-point bump to 22. But it was enough to get past Hillbillies on PCP this week, who needed Baker Mayfield to score about 65 points and not throw any passes or do anything to Rashad White. Couldn't quite get there. Mayfield goes for 43. Receivers, Neighbors, Ridley, Watson, 15, 12.5, 8.5. Jonathan Taylor goes for 9. Jerome Ford, 1.5. Brock Bowers, 15.5. Taysom Hill, plug and play this week for you. Thought you were gonna be clever. Actually ended up being a pretty decent play. He got you 16 points there in the flex. Elliott, the Eagles kicker, goes for about 4 points. Yeah, 4 point something. And then the other Eagles here, the defense actually had a pretty good game against Jacksonville. Started out strong, but Jacksonville, fortunately for me, Jacksonville turned it around in the second half there. Was able to put some points on the board to get some first downs and some yards. Yahoo says 17. I believe. I think you also got a 9-point bump. Maybe was it 12? Would 12 be too much? No, I think it was 12 to 29. But yeah, pretty decent. I mean, decent scores from your buns there. But Ford held you down. Too many, just a few too many single-digit scores there, and obviously Smith and Jigba popping off for 40. That just by himself there, he covered all of your receivers and your kicker, like 5 or 6, like 5 players on your team. I guess we could throw Ford in there. Between like JSN and Puka, those two guys, I said obviously Puka going, or JSN going off. Between just those two, they covered Neighbors, Ridley, Watson, Ford, and your kicker. So 2 of my people covering 5 of yours. Not a recipe for victory. Very often there, Hillbillies, and you weren't able to do it this week. Hillbillies drops to 4 and 5. He is now in 8th place, while the Wizard of Wimber moves up to 7 and 2 and remains in 2nd place. All right. This one could have maybe come down to a Monday night miracle, but it would have taken the game of Patrick Mahomes' life and a superb performance from countering it with a superb performance from the Chiefs defense. Your Kansas City Buns here, of course, we're talking about biscuits and porn, but they could not quite get there versus Ed Logger. He takes it down. He goes over 200 points this week, 202.9 to Biscuits, 175.45. Biscuits going down with another high score that would have beaten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams this week. So yeah, the Pain. Maybe you should change your name to Biscuits and Pain, because that's what you've been being dealt a lot of this year. All right, for Ed, he wises up and puts Kirk Cousins in his starting lineup. Even though, let me see here. Look, I'm looking at you, Ed. I know Aaron Rodgers outscored Kirk Cousins this week, but that is not going to happen every week. I assure you. Unless the matchup is something crazy, you got to play Kirk Cousins. You just have to. He got 39 to Rodgers had 44.5. 5-point difference there. Didn't really make too much of a factor here. But I think you hopefully last week you learned your lesson. Starting Aaron Rodgers there. Really everything went good for Ed this week. Up and down his lineup, basically, except for the olive. Somebody talked about or jinxed him, I think. I forget who it was on the lineup there. Said Cousins went for 39, but then you got 20-point scores, 30-point scores here. Devontae goes for 22. Zay Flowers just under 30. Olive, as you know, took a hard hit. Another concussion for him. Let's wait and see how that plays out, how quickly he comes back. I think he was just out earlier this season for a concussion. So that's 2 in a short period of time. I think somebody said on TV or online that's like 5 in the last couple of years for him. But not a good situation. We'll see what happens there. But history has proven over and over that these guys do not seem to care about their long-term health. They're here to play football, make their money, and hopefully not murder their families in 20 years from now. Saquon goes off for 36. Stevenson, 22.5. 2 touchdowns for him. It was a touchdown bonanza for Ed Logger this week. Hunter Henry, 12.5. Eckler scores too. He gets 17 point something with no bang bang this week. Yeah, those guys could have been up against each other, but I think he was out. Robinson was out. Didn't play this week. So Eckler goes for 17. Matt Gay goes for about 10, and then the Bears defense gets lit up by Arizona. Yeah, I think we didn't have to do much changing your score here. I think 12 for the Bears defense ended up being the correct score there, Ed. But you just got over the 200-point barrier this week, and it was enough to get past Biscuits and Pain. Said Mahomes went for 61.5. Chiefs defense, I believe we added like 12 or 15. Would 15 be too much? Yeah. So they must have gotten about 12 added on to up to 17. So that was like 78 points from your buns. You needed them to get a little over it. You needed about 100 points from your buns. More than 100. We said 78, and you still needed another 27. So yeah, you needed about 110 points, 105, 110, somewhere in there. Couldn't quite do it. That's a tall order. Mooney goes for about 20. Devontae Smith makes a ridiculous touchdown catch. Gets you 18.5. DJ Moore, 7.5. Gibbs, 14.5. Madison, 3.5. Ingram, so many halves here. Ingram, 11.5. McConkey, 11.5. Aubrey goes for about 10. And again, your Chiefs defense went for 17 on Monday night. But it was not enough to get past Ed Logger. Said basically up and down his entire lineup, everything went his way. Just looking here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 touchdowns for Ed's team this week. Yeah, everything was going well. And really not much you can do, Biscuits, when you run into that kind of matchup. Somebody just has everything go the right way for them. This was a matchup of 2 4-4s. With a victory, Ed moves to 5-4. He is in 5th place, while Biscuits drops to 4-5. He is in 7th place. All right, then we've got a little grudge match, East Coast grudge match here. Balls Deep versus Gags to Riches. Gags trying to make a few trades. He's letting Disco steal the trading thunder from him this year. Balls Deep trying a little bit, but not quite as effective as Disco stealing your trade thunder. But Gags makes a couple moves, looking strong. Things shaping up, falling into place for him. Basically, Gags, you got to win out your schedule. But your city, you probably feeling pretty good like that as of now. Maybe that being a possibility. We, as Tree would say, we shall see. But Gags gets the victory in this one over Balls Deep, 172.4 to 147.9. The student is still the student, the master still the master. Gags, what do we got? Sam Darnold goes for 48. Downs, 12. Tank Dell, 18.5. Brian Thomas Jr., 6.2. Connor goes for 18. Only 4.5 for your Chubb. Just like your wife says. Sorry. Your wife says the same thing about you. 4.5. Your Chubb's 4.5. Pitts goes for 2. Kamara pops off for over 200 all-purpose yards, 30.5 points for him. Lutz goes for about 5, and then your Tennessee Titans defense, a big factor in this matchup against New England. Yahoo says, 19? Gonna guess a 9-point bump to 28 for you. Pretty decent scores there. Kamara coming through, enough to get past Balls Deep, who went away from Jordan Love, was coming back from injury, tough Detroit Lions defense. You went with Daniel Jones instead. Jones, I should say, ended up being a good move for you as he outscores Love. He gets you 46 points. Dubs, though, only 7. Cortland Sutton, 24.5. Marvin Harrison Jr., not really sure what is going on with this guy. Only 3.5 points. He really needs to come on to his draft. He was definitely overdrafted this year. The hype was too much. What do we got? Jacobs goes for 13. Monty goes for 12.5. Everybody basically 12.5 here. Jacobs, Montgomery, McBride, and Aaron Jones basically all 12.5 each. Koo goes for 3, and the Washington defense, Yahoo says 8. Looks like you got a 6-point bump to 14. But yeah, mostly, well, you lost by what, 25? So 24.5, something like that. Balls deep. Anything that you could have done differently? Just looking at your bench here. No, not really. Didn't really predict Arizona to have their defense to have such a good matchup against the Bears there. But yeah, Kamara going for 30 while you had Harrison go for 3. Dubs single digits. Yeah, just couldn't quite keep up there with Gags this week. His defense did pretty good. And Gags, he climbs out of the basement. He's now 2-7. He says, Kevin, see ya. Back down to the bottom. 2-7. He is in 11th place. Balls deep drops to 4-5, right above Gags in 10th place. All right, then we got Yinzer Jags versus Darkwing Jet, a Cougar battle, and once again the master is still the master. The student is still the student. The apprentice, perhaps. Darkwing Jet had a shot at this one. He had Cotton, Xavier Worthy, and McLaughlin, the Tampa Bay kicker, all on Monday night going up against Yinzer Jags, who was finished. But they could not quite get there. A few things could have gone different. Probably, anyway, we'll get to that. Final score, 166.9 for Yinzers, 155.55 for Darkwing Jet. All right, Yinzers drops Goff and goes with Stafford. 2 guys traded for each other in real life. 45 points for Stafford. Your Stafford Cup stack there, even though you don't have Cup squished up there, all cozied up next to Matthew Stafford. Amon-Ra goes for 18.5. Cooper went for 21.5. Jay Coker, I don't even know who that is, 5.5 points. James Cook, 12. Walker, 13.5. Sam Laporta, just under 5. Rico Dowdle goes off for 21.5 points this week. Group, you picked up a kicker. You waited till the last second there. From the New Orleans, he actually gets you about 12 points. And then you went with the Cleveland Browns defense this week. Yahoo says 9. I think you got up to 12 from them. Yeah, but it was enough to get you past. I was thinking about this earlier. Who would have known on draft day that you would be here at this point in time, here in week 9, your lineup would be relying on people named Coker, Dowdle, and Group. Like, those names, yeah, just strange times we are living in. Anyway, Darkwing Jet, like I said, he only lost by 11.5. He had Cotton, Worthy, and McLaughlin on Monday nights. Cotton did his part. He went for 21.7, but Xavier Worthy was like, no. Little Dikembe Mutombo. Sorry, Justin. Xavier Worthy goes for -1. He also had a touchdown that would have been, I don't know if he would have been a touchdown. It was like a 30, 40-yard touchdown catch. Right? I'm pretty sure that was him. But he just could not quite. He like caught it and he was going backwards. Just could not quite keep his feet in bounds. It ended up being, no, he was an incomplete pass. But he did nothing else. He had one -10 rushing play, and that was it. So -1, and then McLaughlin got you about 8. But it was not enough with the rest of your team, so couldn't quite get there. Josh Allen goes for 48.5. Jaden Reed, 16. So many half points here. I really read just around half. Jaden Reed, 16.3. CeeDee Lamb, 16.2. Keon Coleman, 5. Mixon goes for 19.5. Kyron, 10.5. Cotton, again, 21.7. -1 for Worthy. McLaughlin, about 7 or 8. And then, big factor here, probably determined the outcome of this matchup. But easy to say in hindsight here. Justin had both teams on Thursday Night Football, Houston and the Jets defenses. He went with the Houston Texans defense. Yeah, there were no binks this week, none that counted. So I didn't have to do too much. So it looks like you got a 6-point bump to 11 from your Texans defense. But, yeah, you definitely would have gotten way more points than that from the Jets defense. They had 8 sacks, a couple turnovers, didn't give up a lot of points. So, yeah, this, I don't know exactly for sure, but I'm pretty sure this matchup goes the other way if Darkwing Jet had played the Jets defense instead of the Texans defense. But like I said, hindsight is 40/40. Easy to just sit here and say what you should have done, but it is not what happened. And even though your 3 guys gave it a good effort, not quite enough on Monday night. Both of these teams were 4-4. With the victory, Ginzer Jags moves up to 5-4, gets off the schneid. He is now in 6th place, while Darkwing Jet, with the loss, he drops to 4-5. He is in 9th place. All right, then we got the blowout, the predicted blowout, not as bad as we thought it was going to be, but still never competitive nonetheless. Sorry there. Dub C going against Disco. 2 people slapping their D's against each other. Disco gets the victory. He goes over 200 points as well. 206.3 to an even 133 for Dub C. All right. Just looking at the team here that Disco's you guys have traded. You let Disco he gags you, guys. Come on. If Disco was throwing Kyler Murray out there every single week, things would not be nearly as imposing as they are right now. You guys know that, right? I gotta believe that you know that. If he had Brian Thomas still, I don't know what's going on. But anyway, the point is, you guys got gagged by Disco. Hertz goes for 50. That could have been should have been on your team there, Dub C. All sorts of wacky things going on this year on your end of the from the your table there. Tyreek goes for 12. AJ Brown gets hurt, but looks like he's going to be okay. He goes for 5.5. But then we got Myers goes for 18.5. Brees goes for 10.5. Ashan goes for 32. Njoku 8. Bijan 21.5. Tucker goes for about 12. But then the big factor here too, the Chargers defense. Winston goes. Winston feeds them several turnovers, several sacks. Yahoo says 24. Looks like you got. I don't know. Did Tucker get any? He must not have got. I think Tucker got like 1. So you must have gotten like a 12-point bump. That would have taken you to 205. Yeah. So it must have been 36 points from your Chargers defense this week. So 86 points from your Buns. Ashan goes for over 30. Bijan goes over 20. And it's more than enough to get past Dubsy Hooligans this week. It was even the highest score of the whole week. For Dubsy, we got Plug and Play. Derek Carr goes for 33.8. Waddle, 7.5. Your Ravens receiver stack, Deontay, brand new to the team, goes for 0. And then Rashad Bateman, only 5.5. But as futile as your wide receivers are, Dubsy, you're stacked at the running back position here. Imagine what you could be if you still had some of these guys. If Disco was still starting, being forced to start Deontay Johnson. But yeah, I don't think that was going to happen anyway. Dobbins goes for 24.5. Chase Brown goes for just under 30. Hawkinson coming back. Good to see him back on the field after all this time, after that gruesome knee injury that he suffered last year. Only a couple catches, 5.5 points there. And Hubba Bubba, Chuba Hubbard, he scores 2 touchdowns again, goes for 21.5, as the Panthers upset the Saints. Dicker the kicker goes for 1 point, because he missed he missed 2 of his 5 kicks were misses, and all the rest were PATs. And then we had the New England defense going against Tennessee here. Yahoo says 10. And Dub C, we had to actually knock 6 points off of your score. 4 was the actual total for the Patriots defense for you this week. All your San Francisco 49ers want to buy. You could have played the Rams defense, but really probably wasn't advisable. Would have been a better play. In hindsight, obviously, would not have made a difference, but it would have been a better play. And yeah, Disco stomps you by 73 points here. Disco on turning things around, riding a winning streak now. Yahoo says he's going to win out his whole schedule. But we'll see what happens. He moves up to 4-4 and jumps all the way up to 3rd place, while Dubsy Hooligans drops back down into the basement, unfortunately, warming up the. Oh no, you can see that I have something. You're supposed to think I'm naked right now. Well, I'm not. Pants wise. Leave that to your imagination. But anything? What was I saying? Oh yeah, Dubsy. I was warming you up for the Rivers jersey here. You're back in the basement. You're in 12th place. You're 2-7. And finally, we had Shawshank, just like Darkwing Jet, giving it the old college try on Monday night. He had Kelsey, he had Butker, but those guys just could not quite get there. Did you have anybody else? I don't think so. I think Tree was done. Yeah. But they just couldn't quite get you there. Possum gets the victory, 188 even to 181.15. For Possum Magic, Lamar Jackson continues to look unstoppable. He goes for 42.5. Scary Terry, 2 catches, but they're both touchdowns. He goes for 16. Justin Jefferson, just under 23. Tillman goes for 19.5, catches another touchdown. Derrick Henry, 29.5. Javonte, 10.5. Kincaid, 7.2. Pittman in the flex goes for 2.5. Siebert, the Washington kicker, goes for about 9. And then your Vikings defense, Yahoo says 15. Looks like we gave you about another 15 points there. That would take you up to 87. That's probably about right. So 30 points from your Minnesota defense this week. just enough to squeak by Shawshank Athletics. Geno Smith goes for 46.5. Garrett Wilson, 2 touchdowns, also a spectacular one on Thursday night there. He goes for 30. Drake London, 10.5. Wandale, only 4. Tony Pollard, who was expected to possibly not even play, goes off for 21.5. DeAndre Swift, 14. Kelsey and Butker just couldn't quite get there. Kelsey gave you 14 catches for 100 yards. Couldn't quite get you a touchdown, and he did lose a fumble early on in the game, which probably cost you a Butker field goal. But again, that was fairly early on in the game. So who knows how that makes, that change. If that scenario happens, it changes the score, changes things. Just like going back in the past and changing one tiny little detail, it unravels the entire future. So who knows what would have gone different. But anyway, Kelsey gets you 22, and Butker gets you about 7.5. But it was just not quite enough, as you lost by just under 7 points. Really just Kelsey catches a touchdown, which he got very close at the end of the game there. And I think Kareem Hunt ended up scoring that touchdown. I believe so. But yeah, late in the game, that was like the game-winning touchdown. They got down there. Kelsey got real close. So count your lucky stars there, Pots and Magic, because I think probably if Kelsey scores that touchdown, I'm pretty sure it was the overtime one, because Butker would not have kicked an extra point, but that touchdown would have been 7 point something, and that would have been enough. If you add 6 point something, well, that extra catch, you would have probably, it would have been so close. It would have been so close, because the catch where he almost got there is counted into the total. So if he had scored on that one, oh man, this matchup would have been super close. But yeah, it's hard to say. Anyway, it didn't happen, and that's all that matters. That's the point of the story. All right, Seattle defense goes for, Yahoo says 12. Josh, we had to knock 3 points off of you. For your Seattle defense, their actual score was 9. No Steelers defense to bail you out this week. A lot of zeros on your bench and bye weeks. A lot of O's. People were out. Not much you could have done differently. So yeah, just needed those guys to come through. Wandale couldn't do it for you with no Pickens there this week. All right, Possum Magic with this victory. He moves to 7-2. He stays in first place. Josh, you could have let me have just a little taste of first place, at least for a couple days. You dropped to 5-4. You are in fourth place. Did not mention at the time, but this week's knockout pool elimination is biscuits and porn. Obviously, 9 weeks in the books. That means only 3 teams are left. Those 3 teams remaining in the knockout pool. This guy, Disco, and Ed. It's just me, Disco, and Ed. The 2 guys who went over 200 points last week. And me, little old me. So we'll see what happens there. Not feeling too good about it. I think I've said before, I would much rather just get knocked out like right away. If instead of getting this close and thinking, oh, maybe I got a chance at this. But like I said, I've got my biggest bye week issues are coming up here in the next few weeks. I got tough matchups. Even though Possum Magic and myself, the Wizard of Winber, now have a 2-game lead above everybody else here, all those 5 and 4s. We're at 7-2. I fully expect that 2-game lead to vanish pretty quickly. Week 11 is tough, and I get Disco. Week 12, I get Justin, and again, half my team is on a bye. I got Josh this week with CMC probably coming back. And then the last 2 weeks, I think I have Ed and Zach. So, feeling happy to be where I'm at right now, but it is going to be a tough road ahead for myself. I'm well aware of that and not acknowledging it already right now. So, what do we got here for week 10? Yahoo, for some reason, has this always being rivalry weeks, and I get Shawshank this week, going to be a tough one. Biscuits versus Gags. Gags trying to climb his way back in there. Biscuits needs to get back at least get back to 500 this week, or he's going to be in a tough spot. So that'll be a good matchup. Your projections. I haven't checked all the bye weeks. Who is on bye here in week 10? Oh, we got several. We got Cleveland, we got Green Bay, we got the Raiders, and we got Seattle. So no Packers, no Seahawks. Not really much from Las Vegas, other than Bowers. Cleveland, you got some random people there. Gags won't have his Chubb. No JSN for me. No Walker. No Geno Smith for Josh. What else we got? No Jordan Love. No Jacobs for Zach. That'll be a little tough for him. We got balls deep. Speaking of Zach, he gets Detling this week, trying to climb back to 500, while Yinzer Jags looks to get win number 6 and get closer to a potential playoff spot. This matchup, balls deep. You probably need this one. Let's see, Darkwing, he gets Possum Magic, trying to climb his way back to 500. Getting a tough matchup here. You need to get this one and try to keep your season alive here. Disco and Hillbillies, 5-4, 4-5, two teams going in opposite directions right now. So Disco trying to get, he's currently got a 3-game streak. The battle of the podcasted battle this week should be a good one, as Hillbillies, you need to get back to 500. Can't afford to drop to 4 and 6 at this point, while Disco trying to get win number 6 and get closer to solidifying a playoff spot for himself as well. And then we've got Ed Lager going up against Dub C Hooligans. Yahoo currently projects Dub C to win this matchup. I don't know what kind of bye week. Kevin's got all his 49ers back in his lineup. Ed, he's got Trey Palmer in his lineup. Keenan Allen. What do you got with your bye week issues there? All the Olive probably not going to play. You got really not much difference here. Should be a decent matchup. Kevin trying to, at this point, let's just face the truth. You're probably trying to play spoiler more than anything else. Even though you and Gags both have the same record. Dub C, you're on a 3-game losing streak. On the skids, you're almost out of transactions. Low on money there. So it's just not looking good for you in general. At this point, you and Gags basically have to win out your schedule to even have a chance. And it's looking a little bit more bright for Gags to try and do that than it is for you. So all these 4-5 teams, Biscuits, Hillbillies, Darkwing, and Balls Deep, desperately need a victory. You don't want to be 10 weeks in and only have 4 victories, meaning you basically have to win out just to get to 8. Might be some 7-7s making the playoffs this year. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be tough for you guys. As every week we're getting closer and closer to the end of the season, which means every victory is valuable. You got to get them. You're running out of time. So that's pretty much it for week 9. We'll head in here to 10. So again, we got Wizard versus Shawshank should be good. Biscuits and Gags. Zach and Detling, good matchup. Tree and Justin. Disco and Brian. Dub C and Ed. Just look to see here where those bye weeks are coming in. Hillbillies has his Stroud, Nico stacked back in there, going up against Disco's Hertz, AJ Brown stack. We'll see what happens. You do have a couple. Disco has 2 people on bye this week. He needs another receiver. He needs another tight end. He's got Schultz on his bench. We'll see if he puts in either McCaffrey or Parker Washington, I think his name is, from Jacksonville, or if he picks up somebody off of waivers. But even with those 2 guys on bye, you're still projected to beat Hillbillies on PCP this week. So we'll see what happens there. For Hillbillies, don't really see any bye week issues for him. Watson, Bowers, and DK is on bye, but he was kind of hurt anyway, at least for the time being. What else do we got? Possum versus Darkwing. Darkwing's got no Jaden Reed. Justin doesn't usually change his lineup quickly. Possum, he's got a Dunze in there. Demario Douglas. He moved Tillman. Tillman's on a bye. He put Pittman on the bench. We'll see what he does with Pearsall. As for Justin, Lamb's going to be playing through an injury, and he doesn't have Dak anymore. We'll see how that situation plays out. You've got right now. You have the Houston defense in there versus Detroit. I imagine you're probably going to change that out. So no Jaden Reed. Jameson Williams probably comes back this week, so you're probably going to plug him in. You got the Jets defense at Arizona, probably a better play than Houston versus Detroit. But yeah, Justin, you make a couple moves there. Hope for the best. But yeah, it's going to be a tough one here for you. Let's see, what else do we got? We got Yinzers versus Balls Deep. Yinzers, basically his normal starting lineup. He's hoping McMillan comes back. He's got him in the flex there. No Walker, no Kraft this week. What do you got? McMillan has a hamstring injury, so that you have to keep an eye on that. You might, who knows? You might throw in. Who are they playing? Indianapolis. You might play Cook and Ray Davis. That might not be a horrible choice here. For Zach, obviously no Packers this week. That means no Dubs, no Love, no Jacobs. What else is he missing? That's pretty much it. All your Packers are out, so you're going to have to throw together a lineup. You've got Jacobs in your bye Jacobs on a bye in your flex right now. You're probably going to pick somebody up because you really have little to nothing available on your bench right now. So yeah, Ball Steve probably going to pick somebody up off of waivers here and plug them in to your flex spot. What else do we got? Real quick here. Gags versus Biscuits. Gags moving D-Hop into the starting lineup. Probably a wise idea after watching the Monday night game. Looks like Gags is pretty much at full strength. As for Biscuits, he's got McConkey, Najee. He's hoping Bang Bang comes back. Jim looks like he's pretty much going to be at full strength here. DJ Moore has been fading recently. Other than that, both teams pretty much at full strength. So this should be a pretty good matchup. And then again, myself versus Shawshank. He possibly gets Christian McCaffrey back. Of course, I get to be the first person who has to go up against Christian McCaffrey this year, I should say. Although I've got Burrow and Chase who put up between just the two of them, put up 110, 120 points on Baltimore earlier this year. Unfortunately, it's a Thursday night game, which I hate. But yeah, we got Burrow and Chase against that Baltimore defense again. No Gino this week for you. No JSN for me. What else? He's got McCaffrey in his lineup there. We'll see what happens. Drake London's got that hit pointer. We'll see if he is able to play this week. Got your Steelers defense back. I'm pretty much forced to play, again, my Baltimore defense against my Bengals stack here, so we'll see what happens with that. I don't really have anything else. Keeping an eye on T. Higgins here, if he can come back. He has not practiced. Motherfucking T. Higgins has not practiced in like 2 weeks now. So yeah, little would like to have JSN this week, but then not quite there. So we'll see. Right now, unfortunately got ETN there, but for the most part, assuming Puka doesn't get himself ejected, both of us are more or less going to be at full strength. It's really going to come down to how Flacco does. He was bad last week, or if Josh decides to pick up somebody off of waivers. There's not too much to choose from quarterback-wise. Cooper Rush, Russell Wilson. You got your Steelers defense at Washington. Hoping for Jaden Daniels to have a decent game against them. But yeah, more or less I'm at full strength. But here again, I'm getting my quarterback versus defense. Never like to do that, especially again on Thursday night. But yeah, it's going to be a tough one. But we'll see what happens. Should be interesting. All right, guys. We said this is going to be short and sweet, but it was barely that. We're gonna wrap this up. Other than Dak, I don't really think anybody suffered significant injury this week, so that's fortunate. But again, that cascades down to the rest of the Cowboys' offense, which has been at the best subpar so far this year for a lot of us. Even though CeeDee Lamb has had a couple big games here recently, starting to come on, but I think Dak's going to be out for a while. So that means Cooper Rush. That's good. Probably good news for Dowdle. Hopefully good news for Ferguson. He's going to be throwing short passes, hopefully. So not the end of the world, but not ideal. So we'll see what happens here. All right, guys. Thanks for listening, watching, or whatever it is you do. If you're still making it to this point, may everyone's players meet or exceed expectations. Nobody gets hurt this week. Everyone has a good time. And we come back in week 10 to discuss the events and see where the standings are and who is moving, who's falling, and who's rising, who's falling, and how we're shaping up for the stretch run to the playoffs. All right, guys. Yeah, I think that's about it. Time to go look back at the dreaded election results and try to get some sleep tonight hopefully without having to go throw up. But yeah, you guys don't give a shit what I think. But yeah, I just have to force myself to stop talking right now because I got nothing good to say. And like Grandma always says, you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. So yeah, we'll praying to God, the real God, not the fancy gods. All right, guys, we'll see you back here next week to talk about the events of Week 10. All right, thanks again, and bye-bye.